Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook, got Justin Wells with me here for Inside the Program. It is Friday. It is day 3 of preseason training camp. We got to look at 2 practices over the course of Wednesday and Thursday. Don't get to look at Friday or Saturday, but we'll be back Monday. But Justin, we got a lot of great stuff not only here on this channel to talk about, but also over on Inside Texas as well. So people should come check out everything we've been putting together on all our different channels.
This is the time of the year. People are excited. We're excited. We don't have to talk about practice reports that we don't see. We get to talk about the good stuff, the stuff we get to see. And listen, that first day, I tip my cap to Sark and John Bianco and those guys. They let us out there for a long time doing this 14 years. Never been out there that long. Very grateful. Got to see a ton of stuff. We took notes, obviously, for practice reports. Come see us at InsideTexas.com. We've had 3 or 4 of those things already up, but we've also got some other stuff that we've collected over the last few days, just insider stuff to try to figure out, what this team's going to look like the first weekend of camp.
Not only that, been talking to Steve Sarkisian, talked to his coordinators, talked to players, and that's kind of what I want to go, the direction I want to go with this one. We all know that the quarterbacks are going to be wearing in-helmet communication devices. Quinn talked about that a little bit at SEC Media Days, but it feels like they've been beating around the bush as far as who's going to wear it on defense. And Pete Kwiatkowski was hesitant to give much of an answer. Steve Sarkisian's always kind of been like, oh, well, we'll see. We'll test it out. But we got to talk to Anthony Hill, and it made it sound he made it sound like, as the Mike linebacker, as someone who rarely comes off the field in the Texas defense, he'll be the guy who ends up wearing it. What do you think of that? And I'm curious what you saw from some of his comments made on Thursday night. What you think of how he views the in-helmet communication device?
Yeah, this is one of those things where college coaches are maybe a tinge paranoid, and they don't always want to give everything away. And I think the really good ones are like that. And Sark is definitely like that. Why tell opponents which defenders are wearing those things? At some point, Jalen Gilbo was mentioned as potentially having a helmet comm. Derek Williams, the Raptor back at safety, could potentially be wearing that. And so I think that's interesting. Whereas on offense, we automatically know what's going on. On defense, coaches can play little shadow games here and there and see how they can get some advantage from that. To me, the biggest takeaway from Anthony Hill from that was also, talking about, I think the helmet comm thing will help him understand and process the game more. Last year he was thrown to the wolves and fought like a wolf, did really well. And now the game was finally starting to slow down for him. You put that helmet comm in his helmet, and I think that actually helps him process things a little bit better. You've got somebody like PK or Nansen in his ear, letting him know what they see, what to look for. And so we all talk about how it's going to be so great for the offenses, and it's going to be so beneficial for the quarterback and the OC and that bond there. But honestly, it might help Texas on defense this year for guys that, there's some younger guys that are stepping into some bigger roles. And for Anthony Hill, that to me, that might be the most important. Help him kind of lead that charge. The game is finally slowing down for him. Now that you can get that communication in his ear, you can, get it to him a lot quicker, what you're seeing on the field, what's happening. I think that makes the Texas defense better, but I think that makes Anthony Hill even better.
Yeah, one other thing that Hill mentioned that I think is really important, it's going to help with the fact that you're going to face these high tempo offenses. You can get that communicated, the play call communicated a lot quicker. One thing he pointed out I thought was extremely interesting. He said, do you think this in-helmet device is going to help you on the road? It's probably going to help us at home. If we're on the road, whether it's an 80,000 person stadium or a 100,000 person stadium, they're not making noise when Texas is on defense. At DKR, there's 100,000 people making noise. And so he mentioned that it would help the Longhorns when they're on defense at home, probably more so than on the road. And I thought that was an interesting little tidbit. Justin, we get to communicate with a lot of these players, get to know them during their recruitments, especially ones from the state of Texas. Sometimes there are guys from outside the state of Texas who we don't really get much of an eye on. And one of the guys that comes to mind is Bijan Robinson. I don't think we met Bijan maybe until the Army All-American game when he was in San Antonio. Maybe
in person.
You're right, right. We have talked, spoken on the phone, but that was the first time I met Bijan in person. I think it was something similar for you as well. CJ Baxter kind of applies in that same sense. Was there at Edgewater, Florida. Inside Texas had people go out. But, we did not get very many opportunities to meet with CJ Baxter. I think the first time we talked with him, even in the media setting while he was at Texas, was after the Iowa State game last year, and that was up in Ames. So that was our first opportunity. Then and Thursday, I think CJ Baxter is the type of personality and has the on-field game to be like a real superstar. I'm not saying he's going to get a mustard line or maybe he gets some Lambos down the road, but like CJ Baxter, I think he just gets it. He has a persona. He has a personality where he does all the good teammate stuff. Like, yeah, I love playing with Jaden Blue. Yeah, I love talking with him and making each other better. But I also think now he's going to match the physical ability with the off-field character to where I think the next superstar, like personality for Texas, alongside maybe Arch Manning in the coming years, could be CJ Baxter.
I'm so glad you brought this up. This is tremendous because our producer and I were talking about this pre-production about, how does CJ Baxter start over a Jonathan Brooks last year? And it was a valid question. And the truth was he fits Sark's style a little bit better. He fits Sark's MO. Sark has an ideal type of tailback that he wants. Baxter fits that mold. Yeah, Jonathan Brooks was probably the best running back in the program last year, and he proved it. But stylistically, Baxter fits what Sark wants. And Sark wants this thing operating at 100% capacity. And for him to do that, I think Baxter, like you said, he has to match that persona on the field that you see off the field. Listen, there's a reason he started in front of Brooks last year, and there's a reason he was running with the ones the first two practices this year. Look, Jaden Blue has got, that guy's got rockets in his legs. Like he is going to be able to, he is a big time playmaker. Baxter is a guy that's a 20-25 carry a game guy. He reminds me of Cedric Benson a little bit, where he would run hard in the first quarter, but in that fourth quarter, he's wearing down a defense because of his size. Even our Eric Naline talked about this is a guy that could put on a little bit more muscle, especially lower level, and continue to do what he does. I liked Choice getting on to him about getting low when he goes into the hole, like smoke through a keyhole. Cedric Baxter is your quintessential creative player on NCAA 25 at tailback, and he's getting it a little bit more and more. The fact that they brought him out to talk to the media yesterday tells me a lot about how Sark and Choice view this guy in his future.
And that's not to say that Jaden Blue's not going to have a role. We know he is. One of the funny things is that Baxter mentioned that Jaden Blue, and even Jake Majors mentioned this last night, Jaden Blue tells you when he makes a play against you, which I think is pretty darn entertaining. But I agree with a lot of what you said. CJ Baxter spoke a ton about, working on pad level, working on pass protection, and just being a more complete back. I think he's got a good chance of being able to do that this year. And I think if you compare that, you're going to see maybe the next superstar for the Texas Longhorns. Another superstar is Andre the Lawyer. Andre the Lawyer has been helping injured Texans for years, and he can help you if you're in a car wreck, 18-wheeler accident, slip and fall, on-the-job injury. Call Andre at 214-444-8808. You're going to want to trust him and his team. They are accessible. They give you a text message number to call or a phone number to call or text whenever you need to access the team. And Andre the Lawyer will fight for you. A Longhorn, an Inside Texas member, and a friend of ours here at Inside Texas. So give him a call, 214-444-8808. Justin, we also got to talk with Alfred Collins and Jake Majors. Alfred is, I don't think he's bad in front of the camera. He's not. They don't bring out the bad guys. But he's short with his answers. But that's kind of, I think, an indicator with what they think Alfred Collins and even Jake Majors can do this year. Of course, they're senior leaders, but they're the guys who this team trusts to lead in the trenches on either side of the ball.
Yeah, listen, Alfred Collins is one of those guys that you had talked about earlier. We got to know Alfred through the recruiting process, and his mother, Miss Benita, who is an absolutely fantastic lady. That's just a great family, and I think that's part of why he's quiet. I think it's a show up and work, don't tell us about it type mentality in that household. His mother was a competitor. His sister's a big-time volleyball competitor, and Alfred's the same way. Look, I think the light semi-turned on for Alfred this offseason because he realized you got to replace T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, and everybody's going to ask you about that until you actually do it. And so I think Collins has come to some realization that this is the year. T'Vondre, all you needed was one great year to change your life. And it did for T'Vondre Sweat. For Collins should be that next guy. Look, I like a D lineman that doesn't say a whole lot. Just keep them quiet and keep them hungry and keep them fed. And I think Collins he's got some leadership qualities, but from an example standpoint, he'll never be a rah-rah kind of guy. But I love the fact that Collins sees the end of the tunnel. He understands, look, they can make some noise. He talked about they can make some noise in this conference this year. They can leave another legacy like they did last year with a great 2023. Couple that with another college football playoff run. Collins understands how important his role is this year. Replacing Sweat and Murphy is the biggest task in this program. Not receivers, not DBs, it's the defensive line. Collins has taken that on himself. And honestly, that to me shows a little bit more maturity than we saw earlier in his career. And if, like you said, if Texas is trotting him out to talk to the media, hey, if his answers are short and sweet, that makes Sark happy.
One of the things with Collins is that he's the veteran. He's been here for, since 2020. Kenny Baker's new. Kenny Baker, his defensive tackles coach, still kind of, as much as you can in month 8 on the job, still kind of getting to know things. And it was interesting to see how Collins led Kenny Baker's drills, not like taking his place, but like player leadership, led the drills. It was worth noting that like Kenny Baker's really big on having his players be able to do multiple things. I think when you watch T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, they did what our buddy Ian Boyd calls gap and a half. And they're still doing a lot of that different stuff, but they do some other different drills to maybe create some opportunity to two gap this upcoming season. So I'm excited to see the defensive line. I think without those two big, wide bodies who are just immovable, they may do some different things on the defensive line. We saw that coached and led by Kenny Baker and then led by Alfred Collins. Any other big takeaways from what we know from practice, or are you ready to start getting some of the information that we've gathered over the past few days over on Inside Texas?
No, I like what Jake Majors said. One of his notes, one of his quotes after practice yesterday, he's taking on that role of being kind of the older man in the group. And his big job is not just to, help him win the SEC this year. It's to bring along those young guys. That's quintessential leadership. That's how you do it. When one class trains the next class, and then that class trains the next class. That's the definition of player-led. And I think Jake Majors embodies that. He understands, this is his last run, and he's going to play on Sundays in some form or fashion, but he wants to leave it better than he found it. And so far, he is definitely on that track. And the fact that he would bring up the younger guys and trying to help them assimilate and get ready for the next level, that's leadershiping at its finest, and tip your cap to Jake Majors.
That's a room full of them with 4 returning starters, a lot of veteran leadership, and an old guy stepping in at right tackle. So lots of good stuff from practice, lots of great stuff on this channel. So make sure you like the video and subscribe. Help us get to 10,000. We appreciate everybody who's been a part of this ride here on this channel. If you're on podcast, please go ahead and give us a 5-star rating and review. Of course, head to InsideTexas.com. We've got practice reports from the past couple of days. We're going to have stuff all weekend, and we're also going to have recruiting updates. Justin, you wrote about timelines in August. Could be a 5-star August for the Longhorns, and we will have recruiting on this channel like we do regularly every Tuesday. So Justin, thank you so much. Thank you to Andre the Lawyer for sponsoring. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.